Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build a hobbit hole, because anytime you see a mountain, I'm sure most of you guys' first reactions are, look, a new place to make a hobbit hole, and I'm usually accurate about things like that, so without further ado, on to the tutorial. And remember to please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. But for the palette of this build, we're going to be using a mainly dark palette. Dark oak, spruce, along with their logs and stripped log variants, with some smooth sandstone mixed in. Of course, we're going to be using more blocks, but these are the main ones you should get your hands on. Then, find yourself some sort of flat wall you can build on. It doesn't have to be anywhere near as tall as this one. All you need to do is find one that's decently tall, so looking around, even somewhere just there would be pretty decent, and perhaps even going even lower, such as that tiny hole over there. You can see there's a lot of places you could stick this. Perhaps this place right here that I'm zooming in on. There's really no limits to where you can put a hobbit hole, because, they're just a hole in a wall. Just make sure that there's a decently sized back to it, or some way to go downwards. Once the front area of your wall is flattened out, then put a half circle in front using the circle generator in the description. And if you want the very specific parts of it, you want to start after the gray blocks on the sides, which means if we're having a tiny circle here, just a 3x3 demonstration, the gray blocks on the display right here, we'd occlude, so this would be the only part we build like this. Although it's a very small model, you should generally get the idea. Then, you want to stitch some stairs into it in order to smooth it out. There's no right or wrong to this part, it's very subjective how you want to do the stairs. Just try to keep it roughly circular. Once you got your circle-ish thing here, you want to extend the varying parts of it backwards, like this, drilling into the wall. Anytime you have like a notable shift in slope on this, you should add dark oak. So kind of like this, and you can see this is whenever something notable changes in it, or you could have none of that and only do spruce. Either one works. This one is a bit more framed, while the other one's a bit more seamless. It's down to your personal building style for this one. Once you have the roof of the exterior, place down some sideways facing spruce logs, and they should meet up in the middle. Dark oak planks like this, along the floor, door, and you go up, some stairs around, and you just connect all of this together. Replace these corner blocks with smooth sandstone, and you want to fill in this entire front with smooth sandstone. Although you might want to make little holes for windows by adding some planks here, and you can just have tiny windows, and I do recommend that. Although if your thing is small enough, you might not be able to. The front of this thing is now ready, and we're going to focus on the landscape later, because having an interior allows us to put storage inside, and then that'll make it much easier to do anything in this area. And there really should not be much room in here, which means we need to extend it. Spruce, just spruce, and you want to make this kind of octagonal, although it's, cut off, which means it's only going to have 5 sides. Either way, we want it to arc kind of like this, and when you do that, it makes the room a little bit larger while hiding the inside of the roof. Either way, you need to do this part, and then make this room about 7 blocks long. On the inside, we can see that I have some recessed walls, as in they're 1 block in, surrounded this place in a little bit of dark oak, and you should have the general frame design all around. You may have noticed I ignored the ceiling, just to give a little bit of basis of how we do all this. Of course, birch floors, and when we normally have the wall like the edge of this thing, we just go in 1 block. Then we do everything normally, On the top, we have some slabs like this, and then we flatten it all out into just normal spruce. Place down a log, surround it in some dark oak, place a lantern, and now suddenly you can not have to deal with creepers in this individual section. But it's okay, the rest of the areas you excavate have a pretty good chance of having a creeper, in case you miss having your builds being blown up halfway through. Once this room's general design is done, we're going to ignore it until we need some essentials in here, which means make another wall, same style as these, and it's very simple design. We used a door from out there, and this acts as a little bit of a conversion point from the light palette of the front, because you can see the contrast, to the darker rest of the Hobbit hole, giving you the sense that you're going deeper underground. And, of course, Hobbits do indeed live underground, so it's quite understandable why we're using a dark palette. If you're using a little bit of a lighter palette, consider changing it to be a bit darker. Once you have this, excavate a large area and potentially section it off. In the next room, you want to place down some pillars, and of course cave noise has to interrupt me, but you want to place down some pillars on the sides, then add some stairs like this, no middle stair here, skip that, and then add planks on top of those, and then surround those completely in stairs. Connect these up, and now suddenly you have a room. Although this is looking very similar to the original tutorial I made about this, still, there are some key things that I can use to differentiate this, so that way I'm not wasting your time if you watched all of those. Then, you have some stairs going across like this, folding, well, whatever direction this is, and you can then fill in the top with spruce. Either way, it makes a much more interesting room, although you should probably increase the size. This room is now complete, and we can see we have some very fancy framing. I've messed up on certain parts, really should have done that before I started recording, but anyways, we can see it's just a room. What you should do now is put some doors on various parts, while on the front, we grab ourselves some bricks, along with some stairs. Then, in the center, we place down a piece of brick, put some on the other sides, and then what we want to do is connect it all together into a little fireplace. It can be decently tall, but for now, just replace it all with bricks to prevent any fires if you have fire spreads on. And we'll figure out the exact details in a moment. Now, I've put way too much time into a fireplace, although too much time constitutes about 5 minutes, and we can see I've been just using a ton of variants of bricks along with some campfires, logs under them, although that part isn't important. All you need to do is play around with different brick designs and make sure it goes into the ceiling. If you go close enough and crouch and look up, hopefully you should not see any wood. If you see wood, then turn it into bricks, because, that's how a real fireplace is. Then, once you do that, copy the door design you have over here, and plaster it maybe 3-4 times on varying walls. You can have more than one per wall. Now, we got some fancy doors, and there's nothing else to really say, besides, you can include one in this room, perhaps, one going down to a mine, or somewhere else kind of significant that you could store underground. But otherwise, you just want to excavate giant rooms behind them and use the same style that we have in here, which means a massive jump cut. But if you're able to do this room, all you need to do is copy the dimensions, and now you have another room. Because, if we just copy paste this room at different positions, then you just have the same room, just with the doors in different spots and without the fireplace. In one of your rooms, you should try to make it, well, larger, very long room, and you need to place down a comically large table. Starting from this lantern, they're centered on the ceiling to add lighting, and you should add lights all around. you want to place down a piece of planks and then extend it until you get to the other lantern over here. Then surround this all in stairs. You might want to widen it to a little like this. And you just want to have your comically large table. Place down some chairs, so slabs with 4 dark oak, just to give you an example of what that looks like. Here, slab. Then we place down trapdoors, fold them all in, we got chair. Add this all around your comically large table. I have made the comically large table, 11 chairs around it, remove this one so that way we have more room, candles, a little thing in the middle, and what we want to do now is we can start making our furnace area. Just a couple of smokers, and perhaps furnaces too. Maybe you could make those the ground in order to hide them. Smooth stone in order to divide this up. And you just want to make the area a bit more unique. Although, if you want to make some very fancy stuff, you could put some backwards facing blast furnaces. Now, we have a comically oversized table here. I got the new central piece. I have some furnaces, and I recommend getting some andesite in order to line this to make it a little less jarring. Just replace the floor near it, it'll look better. Because the furnaces are hidden in the floor, you solve the issue of having ugly furnaces outside, which means you can focus more on better things. Then, for the living room, just start by placing a photography table, surround it with a couple of planks and stairs. Then you will have another table, surround it in more chairs, and once you're done with that, you replace the floor with orange or whatever wool and surround it with carpet because, as demonstrated here, you see we get the 3D effect while being able to place other things on it like chairs. Now we got the living room in place, nothing too complicated, we already had the fireplace. I have the bookshelf, a new table, candles on it, chairs, nothing else to really say. It's just a nice living room. Also placed down a cauldron because cooking pots, back in the day. And we got a loom here. I'm going to move it later on, but still, it's something to have. Once you're done with this, you want to go to one of the rooms you've made and convert it into a bedroom. Of course, you're going to need to excavate it. Now you can see that I've excavated this and now we have a very bland room. Nothing to say about it, it's just the same basic design. Turn this into any old bedroom you've put into any build, and yeah, nothing else to say. Chests, armor stands, backup chest of course, rather than normal storage. That's the other room that's empty. Really, there's nothing else to say. Couple of tables, put some wither skeleton skulls on it, maps, just anything you want in your bedroom. Once you've finished the room, you can see just adding a carpet, splash of color, and a map, it's really adding to the room. Couple of tables, it's just your bedroom. Nothing else to really say. And if you already have a pre-existing room and you're just watching this for fun, for one, thank you. And two, you can add all these to your pre-existing builds. Then go in here and add chests, barrels, whatever you want. Don't forget you can include a carpet. Also, sometimes you'll end up clipping out of whatever hill or mountain you're building in. Just cover it in grass. Nothing too serious, a little bit of bone meal to cover it up and make it look more natural. And you've solved everything. This basic room is now done. Barrels in the place of bookshelves on our normal bookshelves. And there's really nothing to say about it. You could put a trash burner, although I recommend just replacing it with a hopper. That goes into another chest that you sort later, because, accidentally throwing away diamond tools. We can see this room, and pretty basic, nothing else to say about it, already built it. Just make sure nothing's clipping in, and in this room, anything functional that you missed, add it here. I've added all the useful things in here, and I also added a table. Just a little look around, you can see adding the tables really adds a lot. because you can see I already had those in there, but in this room, such a small detail has changed so much. This room I didn't add any, and you can definitely see the difference. There's the little splashes of color around, paintings and such, and I included the enchanting over here. Very simple stuff. Otherwise, add your tables, and the interior will be completely done. Out on the front, we have some fences around, and very simple thing, no need to cover it. Then you want to make a simple path, just mixing 3 blocks like cobble, mossy cobble, and tuff together, decreasing in density the further away you get from your target, and perhaps connecting it to other places of interest. Path complete, and the final part of this build is the landscaping and lighting. Place down a couple of azaleas, bone meal them to get trees, and otherwise you just have azaleas around. Then place down some tulips and such, or other flowers you won't see often, pumpkins even. We'll strip to dark oak logs with lanterns on them to add lighting. Just simple things you'd include in a garden. Once you have your garden complete, then your build is complete. Out front, we can see what a little bit of landscaping can do. All the greenery really sets the mood for a hobbit hole. Safe, closed off space that you can live in. A little bit of rocks going up to it, pumpkins around, simple things, and such is the life of a hobbit. You sit around and have 7 meals a day. Going inside, you can see a very cozy thing, and a great starter base, especially for those getting introduced to building, especially because it has very limited exterior work. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. You may notice I went a little fast for the ending parts of the video. That's because I had to voice over them because 7 minutes of footage unfortunately lost their audio because my microphone wasn't plugged in, which I'm getting a new one, so next tutorial will have increased audio quality. Either way, please like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.